Beloved peace-loving leaders, peace associates, today we are in Korea, and today the temperature was minus 13 degrees. The weather is particularly cold, and even though you are busy, I'm really grateful and happy to welcome you all to the second Conference of Hope for the Realization of a Heavenly Unified World. Today's Conference of Hope is taking place at the HJ Cultural Hall, and we have about 800 people participating, as well as participants from about 100 nations joining live and also through various broadcasts, national and private. Today's conference is co-hosted by the Think Tank 2022, Washington Times, and the International Association of Parliamentarians for Peace. Furthermore, we have 500 parliamentarians, current parliamentarians, who are participating here with us today. Let us welcome everyone with a warm round of applause. Please look to the person to your left, to your right, around you, and let us send them a warm round of applause, please. Thank you very much. Respected peace-loving leaders, right now, as the world witnesses, the world is still suffering from the COVID-19 pandemic. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we've seen a lot of difficulties in the realms of the economy, politics, and also even in terms of development. The nations are going towards nationalism instead of cooperation. They're going towards conflict and discord. And we can also see that the fight for hegemony between the different nations and superpowers of the world continues to rise, and we have a new Cold War. And also we've had the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, and also we can see that China and the US are in a fight for hegemony, and we are looking for a world of peace. But this is a serious issue that is raising tremendous concerns for peace-loving citizens around the world. That is why the co-founder of the Universal Peace Federation, Dr. Hak Jahan Moon, has worked to resolve these conflicts through interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universal values, and to provide a fundamental solution to the problems of the world through attending God as our heavenly parent, and realize a world of lasting peace by realizing a heavenly unified world and a heavenly unified Korea, to realize the dream of one family of humanity under the heavenly parent. Under the banner of the heavenly unified world, the Universal Peace Federation has launched different associations, pillars: the International Summit Council for Peace, International Association of Parliamentarians for Peace, Interreligious Association for Peace and Development, and various other associations. And together they've come to launch a Think Tank 2022. Under the auspices of Think Tank 2022, the World Summit, think tank forums, as well as various other peace projects have been initiated around the world. Various visions have been provided so that peace-loving citizens can come together and work to advance the cause of lasting peace around the world. In particular, in February of this year, 157 nations with diplomatic ties to North and South Korea sent the representatives to Korea, and 2022 VIPs gathered in Korea, and they adopted a resolution, the World Summit 2022 resolution, that advocated for one peninsula, one culture, and one people. And this has been expanded into a peace charter that is being considered for adoption as legislation in various nations of the world. When we look at the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and also the missile provocations from North Korea, as well as the Russian invasion of Ukraine, we can see that the United Nations really has its hands full, and there is a call for renewal of the UN along values and centering on the Universal Peace Charter through mobilizing thought, media, politics, economy, and various other realms of civil society. Various rallies of hope were held to provide solutions from a macro perspective on the various challenges afflicting today's world. In particular, today we are discussing on the issue of freedom of religion, freedom of thought, and overcoming the threat of communism. Respected leaders from around the world, Aristotle spoke that the individual discovers a true humanhood through community. Human beings are political entities, and therefore human beings flourish when they are part of one community. And therefore, when they are part of a praxis, they can discover their true self and grow into true human beings. And a community consisting of true individuals becomes an ideal, harmonious society, and more than just one person's personal ideology. Through discussion and healthy engagement, we can find the development of societies. And that is why from ancient Greece we had the culture of the agora, of free discussions, where people could freely express their ideas and philosophies. This freedom of expression was respected in ancient Greece, because they understood that it is through free expression and democracy that society could flourish. And this ancient Greek system has inspired modern democratic societies. However, as we can see, among John Stuart Mill spoke in his book on freedom, he spoke about freedom as really diversity, and diversity includes freedom of expression and freedom of representation, and also to respect really the individual, to respect the uniqueness and the sovereignty of the individual. However, as the free ideology, there are also ideologies that oppress these personal freedoms, and the representative ideology is that oppresses personal freedoms is communism. In the Declaration of Marx and Engels, it is written that until now, all of history has been a struggle between the different classes. And communism sees history as a fight between different classes. They do not see human history as a development of civilizations, but a fight between the laborers, the working classes, and the bourgeois and the proletariat. Therefore, they only wanted to establish a mechanical equality, but they also wanted to expand the culture that expanded jealousy, and they completely disrespected individual freedoms. And as a result, communism led to totalitarian, authoritative, and dictatorial regimes around the world. And because of these dictatorial regimes, there we see that in communist regimes, countless people were killed, and the freedoms of citizens were ignored. And we have seen countless cases of human rights and religious violations. One example is the Uyghurs in Xinjiang, and we also were aware of the various cases of religious persecution throughout history. In particular, Marx said that religion is the opium of the masses, and communism has oppressed not just the freedom of thought, but also oppressed freedom of religion, which is the foundational freedom to all democratic societies. Respected leaders, ironically, the right, which represents democracy, and the left, which is represented by socialism, they have been at odds with each other. And when we look at Descartes, who spoke about the absolute individual, we can see that the individual has to work in society and be part of society to develop into a nation, and it is necessary for the nation to provide basic rights to individuals. And conservative base really and emphasize individual rights, while the left or socialists emphasize equality but use it to oppress the people. And we've seen this conflict between of values between the right and the left, between democracy and socialism throughout the history. And as a result of this conflict, tremendous arms races have taken place in the recent memory. And even today, a new Cold War is upon us. And therefore, to solve this issue, this conflict of values, it is necessary to provide a new vision, and it is necessary to solve at a fundamental level this problem, and it is necessary to provide a new thought, a new ideology, and a new foundation for religious freedom at this important time. Respected religious leaders, right now throughout the world, we can see the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that was adopted unanimously in 1948, and all the nations that adopted the Universal Rights Declaration of Human Rights adopted it in their constitutions. And the Universal Declaration of Human Rights mentions a freedom of religion, and it mentions that we are endowed with inalienable rights, one of them being religious freedom, freedom to worship, to assemble, and to follow according to the dictates of one's conscience. I mentioned this in the first Conference of Hope, but I will mention it once again. All human beings are endowed with inalienable rights: the freedom of religion, the freedom of assembly, and the freedom to worship, the freedom to choose according to the dictates of one's conscience, and the freedom also to pursue personal and public initiatives such as worship and mission work and assembly, and also communal service. Human beings are endowed with this inalienable right. This passage from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the reason behind this was founded on the Declaration of Independence of the United States, that also enshrined religious freedom as the cornerstone of all freedoms and all rights, and therefore freedom of religion should not be violated by any government or ideology. Recently, in more than 45 nations, leaders from around the world, the International Freedom Round Table prepared a special document and sent to the Japanese Diet a special letter speaking and mentioning concerns about the new law about donations, and any initiative to really limit and conscript the freedom of religion goes against the Constitution of Japan, and also goes against the international norms and regulations. And the International Religious Freedom Round Table really mentioned in their statement that this will leave a stain on Japan's religious freedom record, and also will lead to a terrible precedent for religious freedom around the world. And it is important for Japan to preserve and adhere to religious freedom. And Mr. Greg Mitchell, the founder of the International Religious Freedom Roundtable, sound this. Mr. Sam Brownback also sound this, and various other leaders who support religious freedom supported this initiative. Why would they do so? Because religious freedom is a foundational, fundamental human right. When we look at history, we can see that communism and socialism have caused the largest number of oppression and violations of the religious rights of citizens. It means that they do not recognize God, they do not recognize the freedom of worship and the freedom of religion. And because they cannot recognize religious freedom, they cannot acknowledge freedom of thought. And this has led to human rights violations. And today, among the different keynote addresses, this is the 100th anniversary of the Communist Party in Japan, but Mr. Chairman Shi of the Communist Party of Japan wrote in the Red Flag magazine that this is the final war against the International Federation for Victory over Communism. He wrote the expression, this is the final war. And behind that, there are more than 20,000 articles that have really oppressed the religious freedom of the Unification Church in Japan. And therefore, it is clearly necessary to understand what religious freedom is and its importance. And today, I've spoken about the threat of communism and also threats to freedom of thought around the world. And I would like to make one suggestion. Today, in the name of the Alliance for Values, we are called to really work together so that when we see that communism and democracy are at odds with each other, and but just as Descartes spoke about absolute individualism, and also we speak about the communal nature of human beings, in order to bring harmony between the different ideologies around the world, and in order to stop the conflicts and also the various ideological conflicts that have happened around the world, and in order to overcome the ideological and the philosophical foundations for the fight for hegemony around the world, it is necessary to reconsider what are the fundamental ideologies that can bring harmony and lasting peace around the world. Reverend Dr. Sam Young-won and Dr. Hak Jahan Moon have emphasized the importance of God as the heavenly parent and the importance of healthy, God-centered families. And human beings are all born in families, and therefore we are part of a family, and this family should be centered on God. Everyone is born in a family as a child, grows to become a man and woman and a husband and wife, and they become parents and form a community, which is the family. And in the family they experience the heart of children, of siblings, of parents, and also of a couple. And therefore human beings are not selfish human beings, but they should be artistic human beings. And love means the insuppressible desire to live for the sake of others. And by expanding on this concept of the love of the family, which is experienced through love as siblings, as parents, as also couples, and also as children, then we can expand this to society. Therefore, human society should be seen as a combination of different families, and these families should be God-centered. Therefore, human beings are not meant to live alone or to live as just one individual, but human beings are meant to live as God-centered families. Human beings should not live selfish lives, but lives that are family-oriented, supporting families. And we are born through the creation of God. The relationship between parents or families and God should be that of parent and children. And therefore, when we want to emphasize the rights of religion or the rights of human beings, we should approach it through the point of view, through the lens of the relationship between parent and child, between God and children and humanity. And therefore we can overcome the tendencies for selfishness or the oppressions from socialism and communism. We should not oppress the family. We should not oppress the the holiness of pure love, and also the ideological foundation of LGBTQ, which is going against the family, is not right. And right now, already communism, many people see communism as reaching its end. And now the time has come for us to recognize that any oppression of religion will not lead to the realization of a lasting world of peace. Really respected leaders from around the world. And now the time has come of us to really uphold values centering on families, God-centered families, and let us march the path of true peace. The time has come for us to write a new chapter in history, and a new emphasis on rights should not just focus on the individual, but also focus on families, God-centered families. Rights should be emphasized, centering on families. Now is the time for us to recognize the centrality of families in society and the importance of establishing God-centered families around the world. It is through realizing this ideal where families attend God as the heavenly parent, and we realize the ideal of one family of humanity under the heavenly parent, then religions will achieve their ultimate objective, and also we can realize true religious freedom, where children can freely worship God as the parent, and also freely worship God according to the dictates of their conscience. And going beyond just individualism or the rights of the individual, we can emphasize the rights of the family. Then we can solve the problems that are arising because of the new Cold War. I believe that if we attend God as a heavenly parent and we realize one culture of peace, one community of humanity under God, then we can realize one family of humanity under God. Thank you very much for attending today's event and for joining live from around the world. I would like to thank all the peace leaders and peace associates. And once again, I would like to welcome you once again. Today we have an amazing lineup of speakers, and I hope that you will find profound inspiration through today's speeches. And in democratic society, there are many cases of oppression, and we will understand why freedom of thought and freedom of religion are important. Once again, thank you very much and for your participation. I would like to welcome you all, and I would like to end my welcoming remarks here. Thank you very much.